I will introduce you to our second part of the study, in which we decided to go a bit deep into the cases and try to get more details and insights from some of the examples and cities that were selected in the first phase. And so, as I said, the goal of this phase was to identify diversities and nuanced insights that occur in the implementation phase of the 15-minute city concept. So we wanted to know more details about the single interventions. We wanted to understand what were the challenges of the implementations. We also wanted to know which monitoring and assessment methods were used, and also try to understand which transformation potential had the intervention. So looking from radical to the system change effect, and also to discuss again with the people who were involved in the changes, which are still the unsolved issues and how research might need. My support these needs. So to do that, we went through two phases methodology. We first analyze and review local plans, and then we ran semi-structured interviews with key stakeholders. The interviews run between November 2023 and March 2024, and we did 2 or 3 interviews per cities. And the interviews questions were focused on initial scoping question about the details of the interventions and the practices implemented or planned, details about implementation, details about monitoring assessment, and again some question about how the practices and intervention had impact or might have impact in the long term and in the wider scale. So my colleague already spoiled this, but we had 6 cities which we selected according to some criteria. We wanted to have a different geographic distribution, but also different population sizes. We wanted to both try to understand the issues but also best practices both in big cities such as Paris or Vienna, but also smaller cities. From the smallest ones, I think is Ghent. We of course wanted to learn from cities that demonstrated some radical features, more interesting ones from the first mapping exercise. And we wanted to have also cities that came and were classified in different categories in the first phase. So we had Bologna, Edinburgh, Ghent, Lisbon, Paris, and Vienna. So I'm sure that there are much more, maybe more interesting, but again, this was the very first phase. So hopefully we will have opportunity to add more cities, or maybe you or other people involved in the DOT program might do that. So also you know already, because Cecilia told you, we have something for you at the end, which is a report in which you will find much more information about the output of this phase. It's very hard to concentrate 1 year work in one slide. So basically, for each city, you will have some details that you will find much more information about in our report. The first one, which to us seems quite diverse from others, is Bologna. Bologna medium cities in Italy implemented the concept of the 15-minute city, call it all, use it as an evolving term, this idea of proximity ecosystems. And the main concept is that the neighborhood is considered as a common good. And this came from, a long history of a strong civic sense and a rich tradition of participation in the commons in the city, but I will say maybe in the region in Italy. So this has been implemented and translated in practical terms through different type of intervention since more than 2 decades of history. And probably one quote that could be representative of Bologna case is that how the strategy emphasize the service decentralization and community engagement. This is also why we selected this image to represent Bologna. Thinking of one example from Bologna, of course, there is the very new implemented Bologna Città 30, which is a wide citywide policy to reduce the speed limit, and this is the first in Italy to be implemented at a citywide scale. But also some other more neighborhood example of practices like the proximity agents who are individuals working closely to local communities, facilitating dialogues and cooperation between the city administration and the neighbors and the residents. And so it's really a way to create trust and also practically organize meetings, workshop, focus group, and establish a relationship with citizens that could effectively participate in the decision making. Other best practices like the neighborhood houses or the ethical deliveries, you will find much more in our results report. Some key innovation again we learned from Bologna are the community focused urban spaces. Some challenges was mentioned the difficulties in balancing the community engagement with the administrative capabilities. So again, very small, quick spot from Bologna. We can move to the next one, which is Edinburgh. I think it was mentioned in one of your comments as a very interesting case because again, it's a long history of implementing this proximity idea into practice. Now, very recently, also approved at the national level a 20 minutes neighborhood policy. Edinburgh is famous for link this policy to broader social challenges. So going to the question before about examples in the outskirts, Edinburgh is definitely the place to look at because they defined 20 minutes neighborhood to tackle, again, inclusive transport poverty, but also low accessibility to services, especially in the outskirts, or at least this is where it started. And the idea is, again, to give emphasis on access over mobility and to support vulnerable population. Of course, 20 minutes neighborhood is not just like that, is really a broader idea of living well locally. Some example of best practice we could learn from Edinburgh, Scotland in general, is this place standard engagement tool, which is a way to facilitate the consideration of physical and social dimension of places from the citizen perspectives. And this is implemented to get feedback from citizens, groups and communities in many different projects, and in particular in some place quality projects. So the main lessons from Edinburgh is to probably again still have the community in mind when planning and implementing practices related to the 15-minute city. So some key innovation are the place-based approach, but also a long-term strategy that we also see in other cities as one of the key success point. Challenges this idea of adapting the concept of peri-urban rural context with a lot of relative challenges related to that, including, costs and lack of existing infrastructure. Also the lack of effective dialogue between different departments that are involved in the implementation of the 15-minute city, including two basics ones like transports and health. Another city we analyze is Ghent. That was mentioned before. We don't have any slogan for Ghent, so any name was implemented related to the 15-minute city concept in Ghent, but we wanted to include it because of the quality of the intervention and also the way in which they were implemented. I think so. The quote that we selected for Ghent is that his strength lies in his strong commitment to green policies for over 20 years. So many of the people we interview really stress this importance of long-term strategy that helped both, looking at the past, but also, looking at future years. In Ghent, what was different from other cities, there is this very strong focus on active modes of transport and this reduction of car traffic, but also linked with very strong social and welfare policies. Some key innovation, probably this green climate actions that is a network of 8 car-free connection that connects city center to the rest of the city, and but those are not just car-free. They also provide green structure and really nice walk along water courses. Some challenges that also occurred in other cities. I think I saw a reference to Oxford. So also Ghent suffered a huge public resistance to reduce car accessibility, but at the end they managed to implement the plan in a very short time. So the plan definition lasted almost 10 years, but they actually implemented it into one night. So I think if you want to know more about radical implementation aspect, our suggestion is to go and look at what Ghent managed to do. We selected in the south Lisbon because we also covered Portuguese, but that was not the main reason. Lisbon was chosen because there is this really emphasis on community-based planning and emphasis on walking and cycling. The 15-minute city concept in Lisbon has been translated into this main policies that is called a square in every neighborhood. So there is this really strong emphasis on providing public spaces, so micro centrality that concentrate activities, but also provide again a place to stay around a square and or neighborhood garden. So we selected also this one as one of the best practice among others that regard Lisbon. One challenge that Lisbon still has, because most of these practices in Lisbon have not been implemented, is the the slow process due to very complicated bureaucracy and in some cases insufficient funding for implementation. This is of course not the only city who has this challenge. Well, we couldn't not include Paris. That was the city that you all had in mind when you think about a 15-minute city. Maybe we can say it was the best city to sorry, sell the idea of the 15-minute city with the name of the Ville de Cardel. The concept beyond the Paris success, of course, is not just marketing, is really this idea of having this like big bang of proximity, and they did it like in a spectacular way by really implementing the 15-minute city concept in a comprehensive and multidimensional approach. That means to cover basically all the 4 key areas that the UT define as fundamental for the 15-minute city practice, but also in time, so long-term and citywide vision, so that whatever happen, this concept will be into the urban planning documents for the next 10-15 years. Some of best practice that also Cecilia mentioned are the OASIS course in which schools have been converted into multi-purpose building. So in this sense, the 15-minute city is condensed in one block. But also, again, looking at schools, the Rue École, which are school street. So it seems that Paris started from schools as one of the core of essential urban life around children, activities and learning, and out of that really build out communities of parents, teachers, and people living there. So I think it's probably this is one of the most interesting case. So start from a very powerful activity and out of it try to create urbanity. I think, yeah, you know a lot already about Paris, but you can find much more on our report dedicated to Paris. Something to mention that regards big cities. So I think Paris and Vienna both mentioned that. So the issues of regional cooperation. So when it's not just a small municipality, there are other different things that might slow down the implementation process or, you know, create increased complexity of the process, which are multi-level governance metropolitan areas. And in this case, also Paris was, in our interviews, that was mentioned. So finally, we have Vienna, which also has something to teach. And the concept is basically the 15-minute city translated directly. And something interesting that Vienna could definitely bring to other cities the same sizes that they started. So they didn't separate the idea of the 15-minute city walking and cycling neighborhood from the public transport network. So the public transport is Vienna, which is probably one of the best in the world, serves a bit of the backbone of the construction of quality local highlight neighborhoods. And again, the concept has been implemented into this more polycentrality approach, so also around this idea of distributed TOD around public transport and with the revitalization of local neighborhoods. So the two things went together. And some best practice, for example, the VN box, which is a white label solution for parcel deliveries, so that can be used business to business or customer to customer, and those are simplified. So we also managed to find some logistic examples, not as much as we wanted, but if you look in our report, you will find some interesting example just that focus on the logistic side. And of course, we have to mention for Vienna the Supergrads, which is an adaptation of the Barcelona Superblocks. And the aim there is to reduce traffic within a group of blocks and preventing through traffic by applying one-way loops. And this is also the picture that we decided to get from Vienna. So very quick overview of the cases, but maybe we can just sum up with some finding across cities. So I think I mentioned already there are some common success factors, which are strong local, that again was mentioned from the people we interviewed, strong local leadership, robust public engagement. Do not forget the social aspect of the 15-minute city, and also this comprehensive and multidimensional approach and long-term visions that was clear in Bologna, Paris, and also, yeah, the role of public transport for big cities. Some common challenges, financial constraints, the need of technical expertise, the issue of implementing in suburban areas. This is a big thing that many experts we interview mention, but also these issues of public oppositions, very hot in the UK, for example, but also I think you mentioned in one of the questions, so 15 minutes for whom. So this idea of the gentrification impacts, affordability. So this is something that remains question marks and challenges for the cities we spoke with. Regarding monitoring and assessment methods, we found some good practices, but there is still a lot of space to improve that, especially on social impact assessment. System change, so some very brief outputs. It was said that policies that combine one or two or three key areas, or that for sure have and include a social aspect, are the ones which have much more potential for systemic change. And of course, something also mentioned was, again, looking at the distribution and the spatial distribution of policies is an aspect. Some unsolved issues, research needs. So maybe this is for you, Maxi. So define a 15-minute city use case, collect more quantitative evidence on the impacts. This is something that we as researchers should definitely help cities. This was something that cities asked for. Keep working on the collection of best practices. So they suggested this should be something continuous, but also really with a focus on the implementation and business cases issues. So I think I left some space for questions, and I will stop sharing my slides here. Thank you.